Hey guys, it is Patrick, your San Antonio-based real estate agent, and in this video, we're going to be talking about 3 practical reasons why you should consider owning your own home. Now, if you are someone who is renting an apartment or renting a home, maybe you're living with a parent, or maybe you're just bumming it off a friend right now just to get by, I'm going to give you 3 practical reasons you should be thinking about owning a home and how that's going to help you from not only a financial standpoint, but from a wealth generating standpoint. So if you are ready, let's talk about the first reason why you should consider owning a home. The first reason is that when you are a renter, you are paying someone else's mortgage rather than you paying your own mortgage and generating wealth. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, generally speaking, most homes have a mortgage under it. Now, I don't mean a literal mortgage under it, so don't take the shovels out and start shoveling away the foundation. Well, yeah, don't do that. That's just a mess. But most homes have a mortgage under it, meaning that when you're paying someone else's rent, that rent money goes to the landlord, and the landlord's going to turn around and pay the bank's mortgage on that property. So you are literally paying the mortgage of someone else. And what do you get at it? You get nothing at it at the end of the day. I mean, you get a place to live, so don't get me wrong there, but you really don't get much out of it at the end of the day. After 30 years, what does that landlord get? That landlord gets that home debt free. And so all of the renters have been paying that landlord's mortgage. And at the end of 30 years, that home is owned by that landlord debt free. Now, let me give you a practical personal experience. So before moving to San Antonio, I purchased a home in the Midwest, and in the Midwest, homes were very affordable. And so right now, currently, I pay about $650 in my mortgage payment to the mortgage company for my home, or my rental property now. And currently we've got a renter in there, and the renter's pretty much paying us about $700 a month. So think about this. This is what's happening is I'm getting a rent check for about $700 a month, and I'm turning it around the next month, and I am paying the next month's mortgage with that $700, literally taking the $700 in and then cutting a check for $650 to my mortgage company. So my renters are paying me, and I'm using their money to pay my mortgage. So when we talk about, you as a renter, you're paying someone else's mortgage, someone else is paying my mortgage. And at the end of 30 years, if I decide to keep that home to term, I'm going to have a home debt free. And we don't want to do that. We want to be able to basically make that mortgage payment for us and build that equity so that after 30 years, you own that home outright and not someone else. So that's the first practical reason you should think about owning your own home versus renting. Now, the second reason why you should think about owning a home rather than renting is that when you own your own home, your home cost, for the most part, is pretty consistent. Now, what do I mean by consistent? Well, if you think about, renting a home, renting an apartment or a home, you know that every year you're going to have increases in rent. Now, that increase may be warranted because of the market and how the market rates of rent is, or it may not be warranted, and then they're just tacking on an additional 3% every single year. So you know that when you're renting every single year, you're going to see a price increase on your home. Cut back to owning your own home. When you own your own home, what's happening is you're taking out a mortgage, a fixed rate, fixed term mortgage, hopefully not an adjustable, but a fixed rate, fixed term mortgage, and your mortgage payment. And when I talk about your mortgage payment, I'm only talking about principal and interest. Your principal and interest stays consistent for 30 years. It doesn't change. So hopefully in year 10, when you've got a bunch of raises and you're making more money, your mortgage is still the same amount it was 10 years ago. Now, I don't want to give this illusion that your mortgage rate doesn't go up, because that's a misnomer, because in order to take out a mortgage, most mortgage companies want to also pay your homeowner's insurance as well as your taxes to ensure that those get paid. So they add those costs to your mortgage payment to get your actual payment that you're going to make every single month. Now, if we think about that, your mortgage payment itself, your principals and interest stays the same, but your mortgage payment that you would make when you include your insurance and your property taxes might go up slightly. So that payment that you're making every month to the mortgage company might go up slightly every single year, but it's not going to go up market rate, and it's not going to go up 3%, because the only thing that's going to go up is that insurance rate and that property taxes. But I've got another video for that. So, but when we talk about that mortgage payment is going to be very consistent over 30 years, whereas your rent is going to go up and up and up, and there's not much you can do about it other than pay it or move to another apartment or another home, which also has additional costs in itself, because you're going to have to move and transfer utilities and all of that stuff. So just save yourself a little bit of headache and keep that mortgage payment or that housing cost consistent. Getting a mortgage might be the best solution there. So that's a second practical reason. The third practical reason that you should think about owning your own home is a little different, but well, the practical reason is that you are generating generational wealth. Now, that's kind of an odd thing to think about, but what is generational wealth? Generational wealth is when one generation passes their wealth to the next generation. So they almost get a leg up when it comes to their own wealth. And then that generational wealth is passed on to the next generation, and it keeps on giving and leaving a legacy for future generations. And if you've always been a renter and maybe you haven't inherited anything of generational wealth, you could be the one that starts that generational wealth cycle. You could be the one that gets out of the rental mode and gets into the home ownership mode. And then when you pass along, you're also going to pass along a legacy of wealth that gets to be passed on from your generation to your next generation or to your kids. And so by owning a home, we're seeing a lot of generational wealth transfer from one generation to another very seamlessly, because the home typically is paid off by the time that person passes away. And so all of that wealth gets generated and moved to that next generation. And what's cool about that is that your kids may be able to use that wealth to either stay in the home and live in it. They are able to maybe rent it out and generate additional income on that property so that they can then afford their homes, or they can take that property, liquidate that out, and use that to buy their dream home, or put down a down payment on their home. So we often don't think about the legacy that we're leaving from a financial standpoint, but when you own a home, you kind of start this generational legacy, generational wealth legacy for the generations to come. So that's another practical reason, a small practical reason when you think about it, because it's a very long-term game there, but it's definitely one that you want to think about. So those are the three practical reasons why you should think about, or you should consider, purchasing a home. The first one being, you're not paying someone else's mortgage, you're paying your mortgage and you're building your equity. The second thing is that living expenses, for the most part, are pretty consistent over time. You're not subject to the whims of the landlord. And the third reason is you get to start to leave a legacy for the future generations. So those are the three reasons why you should consider buying a home. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up down below. And in the comment section, what are some practical reasons you believe you should buy a home? Leave that in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel, turn on the notification bells. That way you're alerted every time I post a new video. And if you know someone who is on the fence about buying a home, doesn't really know why they should buy a home, make sure you share this video with them. You can do no better way to help them start their legacy by helping them buy a home. So that's that on 3 practical reasons you should buy a home. And we'll see you next time in my next video.